Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and now it's time for another edition of Age of the Realms Battle Report number 24. This is a 2,000 point battle that was fought between my friend Death with his esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns, which is a Tzeentch Arcanite army, versus myself and my Wild Hunt of the Sylvaneth. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to change up my army again. I mean, I had fun playing as the Tzeentch Arcanites, but actually I just kind of missed playing my Sylvaneth army. I mean, I've done a lot of battle reports with those guys, but I just still miss the whole, hopping and firing maneuver and moving around and coming up with some crazy tactics to defeat my opponents. So I decided to go with that one for this battle report, just because I felt kind of homesick. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to fight at 2,000 points. I'm going to play some background music real quick, run through the army lists. If you want to see exactly what each of us brought for our armies, feel free to pause and take a look at your leisure. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us directly to deployment. As you can see, we were both fighting on a 4x6 table. My buddy Death decided to take the near side of the table. So you can see his entire army is kind of spread out. And then right across this other side in the center is where I deploy my forces. Because I'm a Sylvaneth army, I get to choose whether I want to deploy my troops or not during the deployment phase, or bring them in during my moving phase throughout the battle report. So I decided to only deploy my Free Spirits Battalion, as well as Coadil the Warlord, who's my Tree Lord Ancient as well. As you can see, we got a good series of terrain set out across the table. What I want to put your attention to though are the forests. The forests in this battle are actually Sylvaneth Wildwood. So I have one up there in the left hand corner. I got one in the center. That was the one I got to deploy before we started deploying, because that's where my army is going to set up. We also got a cluster of Sylvaneth Wildwoods right there in the center, as well as behind my enemy's main lines. The reason why that is the case is because Age of Sigmar rules state whatever turn you want to put on the table is what you can do it, as long as it's your quadrant. So I'm Sylvaneth. I'm going to put as many Sylvaneth Wildwoods as I possibly can. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's go talk about the individual deployment areas for this one. Alright, so here's my deployment. As you can see, I just pretty much have my Free Spirits Battalion, which is led by Dirthu, that special character, where I like that guy because he can summon up Sylvaneth Wildwoods for his command ability. I got 3 units of 3 Kurnoth Hunters apiece. Each one is armed with great bows, as well as a Hunt Master. That's my troop of Dawn and Dusk, as well as my troop of Twilight. They're located right there in front of the Sylvaneth Wildwoods. That way they get covered bonuses and also additional bonuses from living inside the Sylvaneth Wildwood. And then right behind them, of course, is Coadil the Warlord. That's my Tree Lord Ancient. He's kitted out with Rhinos Lemon Tiri, which gives him a +2 for his deep wood lore spells, and allows him also to use Silent Communion, where he can summon up another Sylvaneth wildwood within 18 inches, so long as he rolls a 4-up on a d6. And also got Verdant Blessing, which allows him to summon up another one as well. So very, very powerful. I'm looking around getting about 2, maybe 3 Sylvaneth wildwoods per command phase, which is very, very important for a Sylvaneth army. So that makes it my deployment on this one. Alright, so let's talk about the Tzeentch Arcanites for the Esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns. Starting on the left-hand flank, you got the Shadow of Innistrad. That's that Megalith Vortex Beast, followed by the Second Suns, which are 5 Chaos Knights, which are located there. Then you have his center lines with the Storm Lords, that huge unit of 30 Halberdier-equipped Chaos Warriors, and right behind them is Ackhold Hellbrass, his general, is the Champion of Tzeentch. He has a Cult Demagogue command trait, so he gives +2 to all the bravery of all of his enemies as well. Plus, this guy can also have the Unending Legion command ability, which if he rolls a d6 on a 4-up, he can summon up warriors, mortal units from the Slaves of Darkness army, so very, very powerful. Right next to him to the right-hand side, you got Barnabas the Scrivener. That guy is the Magister, so that makes up his right-hand, his center lines. And make up his right-hand flank, he has Skrakalikos, the Warden of Pathways. That's his Lord of Change. He's got the Changelings, that huge unit of 20 Zangor, located on the right-hand side. He's also got his Skeksis of Dark Crystal. That's his Zangor Shaman, is located at the back too. I forgot to mention he also has a Chaos Simulator too, so that way he can get +1 bonuses to any casting abilities. So once again, this army pretty much is the same army I was rolling with when I was playing my Tzeentch Arcanite army, just because my buddy Odeth wanted to roll with that, and I wanted to see if I could take on my own army, because I built it very specifically to be a very powerful summoning army, and I want to see if I can, defeat it. And finally, here's my buddy Odeth's Destiny Dice. He's got 3 1s, a 2, 3 3s, a 2 1 5, as well as 1 6. So we'll see exactly how that rolls out here in a little bit. So with that being said, we go directly to top of turn number 1, and we also roll for initiative. So this is turn 1 for the Tzeentch Arcanites after the command phase. I decided to let my opponent take the first turn because even though I finished deploying early first, I know my opponent's magic abilities, or his magic users, aren't really within range to literally take advantage of his offensive spells. Yeah, he'll be able to summon stuff like you see in this picture here. He generally uses his Unending Legion's command ability and summon up 5 more Chaos Knights right next to the left-hand flank of my center deployment. So that is kind of rough that he can summon up things, but in terms of using long-range firepower for his spells, I'm really out of range for that one, so I have no problem letting him go first. And then I'll go second. Hopefully I can get the initiative on the second turn. So as you can see in this photo for the command abilities, first off, his general uses Crown of Command. Summons up 5 more Chaos Knights to harass my left-hand flank. And because his general is equipped with the Crown of Conquest, he's allowed to use a second command ability. He decides to use Inspiring Presence onto his unit of Stormlords, so that way they'll never break. I don't have to worry about taking Battle Shock tests. Skeksis of Dark Crystal, his Zangor Shaman then casts Arcane Shielding, which you put onto his Zangor unit, which gives them +1 to their save, so makes those guys a little bit harder to kill. And the really big feature on this one is my buddy decided to use one of his Destiny Dice to get a 5 for his Spellcaster for his Lord of Change, because this rule stipulated that they automatically get the second die is automatically the highest die that's rolled. He gets a 10, gets +1 for the little chaos from there behind him. And he summons up his second Lord of Change right there in the middle of the hill next to the Sylvaneth wildwood in the middle of the battlefield as well. Now, I know a lot of you viewers are going to be saying, what about summoning pools? What about summoning pools? And you have points for summoning pools. A lot of you guys like to complain about that. But don't worry about it, though, because we really don't play with summoning pools. When we play it here, when we're just gaming around with our friends, we don't really like summoning pools, so we don't use them. We just let them, just the rules say you can summon it, you can summon it. We're not going to worry about setting aside points for summoning things. That's just ridiculous. But anyways, so that makes up a very powerful command phase for my buddy's Tzeentch Arcanite army. And that takes us directly to the move phase. As you can see, he pretty much runs up about a good third of his army. He runs up his Megalith Vortex Beast, as well as his Chaos Knights, Chaos Warriors, General, Magister, as well as Familiar. And as you can see, they kind of like this interesting kind of formation where they're surrounding the center Sylvaneth Wildwood. At the same time, he also just flies up and moves up his 2 Lords of Changes to start up my right-hand flank. He also runs up his Zangors and Zangor Shaman as well. That's actually kind of a good thing because Zangor, so long as they have Braid Horns, they can both run and charge in the same turn because they're kind of like Beastmen. So as you can see, my opponent's not wasting any time, just coming right at me. Here's a close-up of the Shadow over Innistrad as well as the Second Sons getting ready to flank me on the left. And here's a close-up of his Stormlords getting into a line formation, getting ready to cross to that Sylvaneth Wildwood. I have the sneaky suspicion that my opponent's not going to run through that forest during his next turn because he has a 1 to 6 chance of actually losing some guys. He has to roll a d6 for each of his troops. Anybody rolls a 1, they automatically get killed. So he's going to be a little bit cautious going through those woods. And finally, here's a close-up of his 2 Lords of Changes, as well as his Changelings and his General and his Zangor Shaman, Skexes of Dark Crystals. Those 2 Lords of Changes I'm really worried about because if I don't eliminate those guys really quickly before the next hero phase, they can definitely start bringing the pain with some magic spells. So that pretty much makes the move phase. So the move phase over, we go directly to the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, actually not much impressive shots actually took place. They managed to get off a mortal wound onto one of my Kurnoth hunters from the Troop of Dawn, which is located on the right hand side because of the icon bearers that the Zangor have, because they got so many casters nearby, they got one mortal wound off. The other 2 Lords of Change try to concentrate their fire with the Rod of Sorcery onto Durthu, but because Durthu has a save of 3, and he's inside of a Sylvaneth Wildwood, his save drops down to 2, so so as long as I don't roll a 1, I don't have to worrying about taking any injuries. And plus, Rod of Sorcery doesn't have any rend at all, so because of that, they threw a lot of attacks, but only 2 managed to wound me, which is actually pretty cool, so yay for the Sylvaneth. So with that being said, we go directly to the charge phase. On the left-hand side, my opponent, Odeth, takes his 5 newly summoned Chaos Knights and has them charge directly into the flank of Coadil the Will Lord, so that's kind of crazy, because that guy's not really good in combat, really. He's more of a spellcaster, so I have to worry about that combat. And in a very bold move, my buddy decides to send in one of his Lords of Death, his Lord of Change, which is his newly summoned one. It's kind of cool because it doesn't cost me points. He charges him directly into the Troop of Dawn as well, so he gets those guys engaged in close combat. So that makes it the charge phase, so with charge then we go directly to the combat phase. Combat phase here in the left-hand flank was kind of lackluster. They managed to put 1 wound onto Coadil the Will Lord. Like I said before, it's because of the Sylvaneth Wildwood. They get a lot of bonuses for saves on that part. They got a pretty amazing armor save already. They also get additional one on their side of the Sylvaneth Wildwood as well. At the same time, though, Coadil has totally flubbed his rolls, managed to only put 1 wound onto the Chaos Knights. And each of those guys carry 3, so that's kind of rough. Same thing occurred over here in the right-hand flank when I decided to, my troops managed to take 2 wounds onto one of my Kurnoth hunters. Lord of Change is rolling horribly on this part as well. We managed to put 4 wounds onto Lord of Change. A couple of those, 2 of those came from attacks. The other 2 came from the stomps that the Kurnoth hunters do whenever they're engaged in close combat. You roll a d6 and on a 4 up, they inflict a mortal wound, so 2 wounds were put on top of Lord of the Change, which is pretty awesome that part. Since no one was really Paris, there is no battle shock test, so because of that, we go directly to the bottom turn number 1 for the Sylvaneth. So, this is the bottom turn number 1 during the command phase. As you can see, what I start doing is I start summoning up all kinds of Sylvaneth Wildwoods, left, right, and center as well. First of all, if you notice the very back field of the table, I've deployed a couple of my Sylvaneth Wildwoods there using Durthu's command ability because he has a 30-inch range, so there's my 3 forests right there, that's between the hill, as well as that center forest as well. At the same time, I used Coadil's spells. I used his Silent Commune to summon up a Sylvaneth Wildwood to make kind of like a link between the autumn-colored forest as well as his little knobby-looking forest up there in the left-hand corner, so I have a chain of forest that way. And I also used his Verdant Blessing spell in order to put another Sylvaneth Wildwood right in front of those changelings as well. Pretty much, I'm not really. The reason why we have my forest spread out throughout the entire area is because it depends on what the situation is going to be for this. The nice thing about Sylvaneth is they can teleport to these different Sylvaneth Wildwoods all across the battlefield during their movement phase, right? So pretty much I have a couple options. Option number 1 is I could teleport either to the flanks and then try to fight him there as well, or stay exactly where I'm at, so that way he has to go through a line of Sylvaneth forest to get to me. Or nightmare scenario for my opponent, I can teleport my forces onto the other side of the board, which means that all that movement he did trying to move forward, he'll have to turn 180 and go all the way back to come get me again, which is one of the advantages of a Sylvaneth army, and that's one of the reasons why I like them so much. So that pretty much makes it the command phase on this one. And during the move phase, I started teleporting all my units onto the board. I decided to divide up my forces in half, which is sometimes kind of a risky move, but at the same time I could not help myself because I can get my opponent stuck in a pincer attack, which is pretty awesome as well. As you can see on the bottom of the board there, I deploy both Coadil, I get him out of combat, put him at the bottom of the board. Same thing with Sternbark, my Tree Lord. I have him located in the area as well. I take all my Kurnoth Hunters, redeploy them into the bottom half so that way they can start shooting at the back line where all my enemy's characters are located. I take out those spellcasters. And I also deploy my Court of Heralds, which are my Tree Revenants, into the center forest as well, so that way they can assassinate any enemy characters. At the same time, the northern part of the battlefield, I have Coadil, I have Durthu still located where he's at because I'm going to finish off that Lord of Change if I can during my charge days. And I also got my Dryads deployed up at the top of the board as well. As you can see in the bottom of the screen, I got both Coadil, the Will Lord, as well as Sternbark located here at the bottom of the screen, so that way they can start putting out some shots onto my opponent's back ranks. And here is a close-up of my Kurnoth Hunters. My plan is to have all 3 of my Kurnoth Hunters open up their great bows onto the Squakali, the Warden of Pathways. That way I can kill that Lord of Change, and if Goadil kill the second Lord of Change, so that way they can't summon up any more Lords of Changes. At the same time, if I'm really lucky and get some really good damage, I can focus my Kurnoth Hunters at shooting at either Barnabas the Scrivener, which is his Magister, or if I'm really lucky, be able to take out his Chaos Lord, so that way he can't summon up any more units either. So that makes my movement here on the bottom of the screen. And deploy on the top left of my Sylvaneth Wildwood, I got my Court of Tides. That's my 10 Dryads. They're located there as well, and I'm going to explain why I have my troops located here in a second. And in the top center, I have my Court of Seasons as well, as that huge unit of 20 Dryads with Durthu. And the reason why I've done this is because I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen during the next turn. I'm not sure if I'm going to go first or if my opponent will go first, so that's going to make things kind of interesting. If my opponent actually gets the initiative, the nice thing about this is that my opponent will now have to decide what's he going to do. Is he going to charge at my Dryads and Durthu and take those guys out, or is he going to go back after my Kurnoth Hunters as well as my other Treemen? So he's kind of stuck in a hard play. He might have to divide up his forces in order to engage both sides, which would actually kind of weaken him at the same time, so that would be kind of nice. On the other hand, if it becomes my turn, the next turn, I can then redeploy my troops either to the center line of Sylvaneth Wildwoods or in the back lines like I wanted to, and also engage my opponent, make him kind of chase me around the board, so that way he's too busy maneuvering and trying to go after me instead of finishing me off with close combat. So if you're wondering what the strength of the Sylvaneth army is, this is it. You can pick and choose your engagements, how to move around, how to throw off your enemy's game plan, that sort of thing. So with that being said, we go directly to the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, Durthu manages to inflict 2 wounds onto the newly summoned Lord of Change using his Lamentations of Despair, which is actually pretty awesome. That part just got really lucky. My opponent just kind of flubbed his rolls. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, the rest of my guys opened up, all 3 of my units of my Kurnoth Hunters opened up off on my opponent's Lord of Change on Squakali, the Warden of Pathways, managed to blast that guy off the table. Each of those hits caused D3 wounds, which is actually very amazing. Managed to kill this guy, take away all 18 of his wounds, managed to put him to the dirt, which is actually pretty awesome on that part. At the same time, I had Goadil the Warlord open up the Doom Tendril Staff onto my opponent's general, managed to inflict 5 wounds on that guy, so that guy is now dead. So his DRT right there. And I took Sternbark, had him open up with the String Roots onto the Stormlord, managed to kill 2 of those guys in the process of doing that, which is also pretty cool as well. So very successful shooting phase. It took out his general, so now he can't summon up any more Slaves of Darkness units anymore, so whatever he's got on the table now is all he can really bring up. And I also took out his Lord of Change as well, made his magic very weak, and if I can finish off his second Lord of Change in combat with Durthu, then he will not be able to summon up any more Lords of Changes using those Daemon sources to do that. He'll still be able to do it if he wants to using his Shaman and as well as his Magister, but those guys don't have the bonuses that those Lords of Change do, so it's not going to be as much of a threat, which is pretty awesome on that part. So that being said, we go directly to the charge phase. And the only real charge that takes place, I have Durthu charge directly into that newly summoned Lord of Change, because Durthu is a beast killer when it comes to fighting monsters, so I'm excited to see exactly what he's going to do. And as if there was no doubt in my mind, Durthu had no problem finishing off that Lord of Change. Each one of his hits does 6 damage. Every single one of his strikes does. This guy's a beast in close combat as well. So he was able to take his Elder Sword. He got like 2 extra attacks for 5 attacks total. I think 3 of them wounded and also scored hits. So those 18 wounds just atomized that Lord of Change like it's nobody's business. So that part was pretty cool as well. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 and we roll for initiative, which I won the initiative on, which is pretty amazing. So you can see here, I sum up a lot more Sylvaneth Wildwoods. I put some more there on the back of the table there, on the bottom of the table. I put 3 more Sylvaneth Wildwood tiles, so that way I can give some more additional cover to my Kurnoth Hunters. At the same time, I cast another set of Sylvaneth Wildwoods to take place there between the Changelings and the Zangor Shaman, as well as the rest of my troops. That way, that's another buffer zone as well. Unfortunately for me, when I tried to cast Silent Communion, I was unable to get the 56 rolls, so only 2 force were pretty much summoned up, which is, you know, I'll take what I can get. During the movement phase, I start committing a couple of my forces to those main lines of Chaos Warriors. As you can see, I move up my Kurnoth Hunters a little bit, so that way I can engage them in close combat and charge them if I want to after my shooting phase. I move up my Herald of Seasons, as my Court of Heralds as well, because then my plan is to have those guys charge into the Magister and just assassinate that guy as well. Sternbark also moves up a little bit, so that way we can charge the left-hand flank of those Chaos Warriors and take those guys apart. I then use my traveling along the realm roots ability. I move both my units of dryads. First of all, I move my unit of dryads in the very first set of Sylvaneth Wildwoods at the top. That's between the two hills, so that way they can get those changelings and a pincer attack from the front. At the same time, I deploy my Court of Tides, which are my 10-man unit of dryads, into that Sylvaneth Wildwoods I newly summoned up, so that way they can take on Skeksis of Dark Crystals and take out their shaman. And then, of course, I also deployed Durthu here as well, because I'm going to charge them to those Zangor, give it a nice pincer attack, and just absolutely destroy them. The nice part is when I charge in, I'll still be within 3 inches of all these Sylvaneth Wildwoods, and so I'll get those terrain rules where I get additional save added to my guys' save, which is always amazing at that part. So yeah, things are looking pretty up for me right now. During the shooting phase, the combined fire of all 3 of my troops of Dawn, Dusk, as well as Twilight, Coadil the Warlord, as well as Sternbark, manages to cut down these guys, these Chaos Warriors, up to only about 12 of them left. So now these guys are approximately about a third of what they used to be, so no problems right there. I'll just charge and finish those guys off in close combat, which is pretty much what the plan is. As you see in this photo, that's exactly what I do. I started to swarm upon them. I have my 5 tree revenants from the Court of Heralds take on Barnabas the Scrivener, so that way I can take out his one of his magic users. I then send in 2 of my troops, the Troop of Dawn as well as Dusk, to engage onto either flank of the Storm Wars, so I can take those guys on as well. And on the left-hand side there, as you can see, I also put Sternbark there as well, so that way I have 2 units of Kuroth Hunters as well as a Tree Lord taking on that unit of Chaos Warriors. Those guys are going to feel the pain here in a little bit. And at the same time, I just charged everything I have here on the right-hand flank as well. I charge in Durthu as well as my Court of Seasons to deal with the Zangor, so that way they can fight those guys into a pincer attack. Looking forward to see exactly what kind of damage you can cause there. At the same time, I also charge in my Court of Tides as well, but they're not engaged with the Zangor, they're engaged with that Zangor Shaman. My plan is to kill that guy, so that way all of his magic users are dead, so he can't bring up anything on the board, and all of his magic will be gone as well. So no Chaos Spawn, no summoning up new Zangors either, so that's pretty much what I'm kind of going with. And with that being said, we go directly to the combat phase and battle shock phase. And as if there wasn't any doubt between the combat between my Dryads as well as Durthu magic destroyed that entire unit of Zangor, especially when it came to their break tests. Whoever's left over, that whatever D6 roll was rolled, they just ran away, so that unit completely poofed and evaporated on that part. I did lose a couple of Dryads in the process of doing so, but you know that's just the cost of doing business. And of course my Dryads from the Court of Tides had no problem killing off and slaying the Zangor Shaman as well. I think I lost 1 or 2 Dryads in the process of doing that. And then combat over here against the Chaos Warriors is actually pretty good. I lost 1 of my Kuroth Hunters and also got 2 put on my Troop of Dusk, so that was kind of sad. At the same time, I managed to kill 6 of the Chaos Warriors in the process of doing so, but because these guys had Aspiring Presence, they had to worry about taking break tests, so those 6 still remain on the table. As you can see right there on the bottom of the page, my Troop of Heralds and my Court of Heralds had no problem killing Barnabas the Scrivener as well, so that guy is now dead as well. So that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Tzeentch Arcanites. So we're at the bottom of turn number 2 for the Tzeentch Arcanites. This picture is taken directly after the move phase. So you gotta hand it to my buddy Odeth. That guy does not have any quit in him whatsoever. He decides he wants to keep on going even though he lost all of his commanders, all of his magic casters, you know, a big majority of his troops. He decides to go with it anyway. So what he decides to do is guys go for broke for it. As you can see on the top of the page there, he takes his 5 summoned Chaos Knights and moves them just 10 inches directly to get into charge distance of Sternbark, who's my tree man. At the same time, on the left hand side there, he moves up his Shadow of Innistrad as well as his second sons, moves them up 10 inches as well, so that way they can charge directly into Coadil the Warlord. Here's a close of his Mutilith Vortex Beast as well as his Chaos Knights getting ready to charge into my Tree Lord Ancient. And that combat I'm a little bit nervous about because Coadil is already carrying like 3 wounds on him, and going up against a monster as well as Chaos Knights might not be exactly the best thing for him, so I'm kind of worried about that part. And here's a close of the Chaos Knights getting ready to charge into Sternbark. And that one I'm not so concerned about because Sternbark is meant for combat, so not too worried about that. And of course, here's a close of his last 6 Chaos Warriors just getting ready to stand their ground and to fight to the last man. And since there is no shooting phase for these guys because all their shooters are dead, we go directly to the charge phase. And Coadil the Warlord gets charged by both the Chaos Knights as well as the Shadow of Innistrad. However, interesting little fact, because those cavalry had to charge across the that Sylvaneth wall in order to get to him, they did have to take some dangerous terrain tests. He did lose 3 of them in the process of doing that, so that part was kind of interesting. And the second unit of Chaos Knights successfully charged across the battlefield without having to worry about taking drainage terrain tests. They passed them also, all 5 making it into Sternbark. During the combat phase, that Mutilate Vortex Beast had no problem just chewing up what was left over of my Tree Lord Ancient, unfortunately for me. So I made a mistake last time. Actually, 3 of those Chaos Knights made it through. I managed to kill 1 Chaos Knight, but the combined attacks between the other 2 Chaos Knights, as well as the Mutilate Vortex Beast, enough to put down Coedel the Warlord and managed to kill my Tree Lord Ancient. So that part was kind of sad. At the same time, comp up here, I managed to kill 2 of the Chaos Knights in the process of them inflicting 3 wounds onto Sternbark. When it came to the Battle Shock test, though, these guys managed to stick it out, so because of that, I still got to deal with these 3 Chaos Knights. And as for the Chaos Warriors, we killed those guys to the last man, so there's no need to do a break test on that. So because of that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and we roll for initiative. And my buddy Death takes the initiative on this part. He decides to move up his Mutilate Vortex Beast as well as his last 2 remaining Chaos Knights and get him a perfect charge position to charge at Sternbark, who's by himself now. Now Sternbark taking both the Mutilate Vortex Beast as well as another of the 5 total Chaos Knights. That is something that he is not designed to do, so now I'm kind of a little worried about that part. And I'm proved right when the charge phase occurs and all 3 units actually smash into Sternbark. So Sternbark now is surrounded by 5 Chaos Knights as well as a Mutilate Vortex Beast. And with that, we go directly to the combat phase. And the absolute worst thing happens, I lose my Tree Lord. My Tree Lord managed to actually kill 2 of the Chaos Knights that charged into him, so that part was kind of nice. However, the rest of the attacks though, between the Mutilate Vortex Beast as well as that unit of 3 Chaos Knights, it was not enough to stop it, so Sternbark is now dead. So right off the bat, I lost 2 of my Tree Lords, and things are not looking very good. So because of that, we go right to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Sylvaneth. We skipped the command phase on this one because I have no spellcasters left, and plus I'm totally out of Sylvaneth Wildwoods to use, so because of that, we go directly to the move phase. As you can see in this photo, I move up all my Kurnoth Hunters as well as Durthu, because these are the guys who are going to basically do most of the fighting. My plan here is to shoot up whatever I can with my Kurnoth Hunters, whatever's left over, Durthu will just finish off in close combat. Here's a close-up of Durthu getting ready to bring the pain when whatever stuff standing up to my Kurnoth Hunters should blow it to pieces. And here's a close of my Kurnoth Hunters getting ready to kill whatever's left over with Great Bow Fire. During the shooting phase, my Kurnoth Hunters managed to wipe out the last 3 remaining Chaos Knights and also managed to put 4 wounds onto the Mutilate Vortex Beast, so now the Shadows of Innistrad is carrying 4 wounds. So with the shooting phase over, we go directly to the charge phase. Durthu has no problem making the charge phase, and since he's within 3 inches of another Sylvaneth Wildwood, he automatically gets D3 extra attacks with his Elder Wrath Sword. And just like that, Durthu just totally curb stomps the Mutilate Vortex Beast and manages to kill it as well, looking like a boss while he's doing it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to the end of the game. As you can see, there are all my Sylvaneth, pretty much almost my entire army is still standing on the ground there as well. I got a lot of Sylvaneth Wildwoods spread all over across the battlefield as well. In fact, the only thing that's left over is the Chaos Familiar, but if we had to go another turn, that Chaos Familiar would have been dead, so there's not much point in going on with that. So because of that, we're going to go to the After Action report, because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the After Action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, what we can learn for the next time that we do battle for our miniature wargaming. This is the After Action report for Age of the Realms number 24, ended up being a victory for Commander CheapSkate. So let's go and talk about our losses real quick. For my losses, I really lost 2 things. That's Coedel the Warlord as well as Sternbark. So that part was kind of sad as well. For my buddy Death, he lost Alcold Hellbrass, Kalkali Kost, Barnabas the Scrivener, Skeksis of Dark Crystals, the Stormlords, the Second Sons, the Changelings, as well as the Shadow over Innistrad. So yeah, I pretty much lost his entire army except for his little Chaos Familiar. So let's go and talk about some of the factors that allowed me to win this battle. First and foremost, Sylvaneth Wildwoods are very, very key for victory with this army. If you want to play Sylvaneth, you need to be able to effectively use your Wildwoods in order to do this. It does allow you to do a couple of things. First of all, your Wildwoods allows you to secure areas from abilities. So as you saw in this battle report, I originally started off on the far side of the table. My opponent had to march up to me. I then set up Sylvaneth Wildwoods on the opposing side of the table, and I was able to basically just like leap over him basically and just move on the other side, so he had to turn around and fight me and had him completely surrounded. So that's one thing you want to use him for. The second thing is they provide defense bonuses to your troops as well, so they're protected from being charged against, because anybody charges against them has to, or runs across Sylvaneth Wildwoods, has to take a dangerous terrain test. Also, they give you bonuses for your defense, and if you have a magic caster within your army, you cast spells, those Sylvaneth Wildwoods can cause some harm to your opponents as well. So very, very important for defensive needs. And also, it also allows you to hold on to initiative during the fight. What basically happens is because you control these key pieces of terrain, you fight battles on your terms, and your opponent doesn't have the initiative. He or she is constantly reacting against you the entire time. So that's the reason why Sylvaneth Wildwoods are very, very important for this army build. In fact, I don't think any other army within Age of Sigmar does this, has this mechanic in them, and that's Sylvaneth are very unique in that way. Another reason why I won this battle report is because I killed my enemy wizards as leaders as well as turn 2 by this battle. So because of that, I was able to kill all of his magic users. He couldn't even bring up any more reinforcements. He couldn't summon up more demons. A lot of his offensive capabilities for magic spells were gone, and that's very, very bad for a army that is a Tzeentch Arcanite army. Without their magic, they're pretty much useless at that point. I mean, they still got some pretty good close combat fighters, but their thing that they really use the most is magic. And this kind of goes to show you, for all those people out there who talk about summoning pools are kind of meaningless, and this battle part kind of shows you that, exactly that. I fought against an opponent who didn't use summoning pools, and as long as you play intelligently and know how to defeat your opponent, it doesn't do them any good. They can summon up stuff all they want, but if you kill the guys doing all the summoning, it's not going to do them any good. In my opinion, summoning pools was like a game mechanic that was created by the Age of Sigmar guys just to placate rage screams of kids who just couldn't deal with how to fight opponents who could summon things onto the battlefield. They couldn't figure it out, they couldn't use their initiative to do it, and that's why they created this gaming mechanic. I know it's a mean opinion, but that's the way we feel about it in my gaming group. We just don't like them, we don't use them, and so we'll never will. Next, Durthu is still the most powerful character in the game of Age of Sigmar, in my opinion. He is a true warrior. That guy causes 6 damage with every single one of his successful attacks that lands off. Just an absolute beast. Chews up entire units, kills monsters like it's nobody's business. I'll always use that guy in my army as well. And it's actually kind of good to be back playing my Sylvaneth army. I forgot how much fun I had playing with these guys. It's kind of nice playing with them again, and I didn't realize how much I missed playing a Sylvaneth army because of the different game mechanics involved, like I said. So it was kind of fun to go back and play that again. Once again, it was a fun game. It was a great opponent. Looking forward to the rematch. As always, you guys, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your input is always appreciated, and also check out Facebook, Google+, and Instagram for all the latest and greatest on our hobby, as well as our channel. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we alternate every Sunday as well as Thursday between Age of Sigmar and the 9th Age, as well as Warhammer Fantasy Battle, as well as Necromunda. We'll catch you guys on the next one. You guys take it easy. Peace out.